recipe for greatness, moving on stepping stones. Come way too far to become unknown. Waited too long, now I'm out my zone. Gotta dump out that trash and I gotta go. Man at the house, it's like I was 6. So please excuse me, I'm about to trip. I say please excuse me, I'm about to flip. Say the shit ain't gonna work
What's
without
the
confidence.
deal,
Every day
everybody?
I let
Welcome to I Think You're My Driver podcast. This is hosted by yours truly, Ricky Montoya, aka the fullest of all bears. And thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I bring you episode 4. This is going to be called No Gas, I Need New Brakes. So it's exactly what you think that this is going to be. So basically, this is going to be me specifically talking about driving a rideshare car. But sometimes between you and I, that rideshare car might not be up to par to what I would prefer to get in the car, but that's just me. So the one thing that's always fun about driving a car that may be visibly not maybe as appealing, or as a passenger going to get into a car, sometimes may not be visibly appealing, but at the same time, bitch, you don't have a car and you're in my car. So don't have a shit to say about me, but it's cool. If you have something to say, I completely understand. Bro, I've pulled into these rich ass gated community neighborhoods, and that little plastic piece that's like right there in the front of my car, yeah, that bitch will be dragging, my guy. I'm talking, I'll never forget this shit. So we're not gonna say no names and we're not gonna tell the context of the story, but basically I was gonna meet a homie of mine and I called him ahead of time. I'm like, hey bro, I'm coming from, XYZ side of town, so probably be about like 15, 20 minutes. He's like, all right, cool, just let me know when you're, coming down the street because I got somewhere to be. So I'm all right. So I'm pushing and I pull like, I don't know, maybe like a couple blocks, maybe like 2 minutes away. And I'm like, hey, bro, like I'm over here at the stoplight. I'm about to turn down the neighborhood. So I'll be there in like 2 minutes. And then, I text him when I'm like about to turn in the neighborhood. And I'm like, hey, bro, I'm pulling up. He was like, all right, cool. I'm right outside. I was like, all right, man, I'm in a white car. So just keep a lookout for me, just to let you know you're going to hear me before you see me, and not because my car is loud, but because that little plastic piece is dragging. So just be ready. And that's the same thing that I'm presenting myself as a Uber driver, fool. I'm talking, I done pulled up on passengers like at the most like perfect times. Like, how like when you're growing up and your parents would come and pick you up, and sometimes you're like, I don't want to get in the car. I mean, maybe that was just us poor kids, but some of us didn't want to get in the car with our parents because some of us got clunkers. You feel me? My mom used to have a Chevy S10, one of the shit that was like one of those ones that you find in somebody's grandpa's backyard. Like it's a little rusted and shit, and the windows still got tape because the actuator thing broke. Yeah, I'm talking all that, bro. We didn't have no radio, no AC, no nothing. I'm talking like a 96, 97, and the S10 had the seats in the back, the ones that are attached in the wall, and you just pop them bitches down. Yeah, nah, sometimes I ain't gonna lie, when my mom was pulling up in that truck, I mean, I was in like fourth grade, but still, bro, still. So it's like one of those things where you're only gonna understand if you've been there. But at the same time, this driving like a not appealing car, sometimes you might have the gas light or the check engine light or maybe even the tire light on there. Whatever is the case, the number one thing that I learned from somebody that I used to have conversations with is nothing is awkward unless you make it awkward. So don't be a dick and start putting black tape over to try to match the dashboard so nobody can see it, because you can still see the light under it. I used to drive valet, so you start paying attention and looking at stuff like that. I mean, from the back seat, I don't really think a lot of people care. A lot of the times, I'm just running late for work, or I gotta go pick up my little brother from school, or whatever the fuck. So a lot of the times you're not really paying attention to those little things, but I'll go ahead and go down the list of my laundry list of shit that I needed to do. I was driving a Uber Lyft car. Like I said, that little plastic piece at the bottom, that bitch was dragging for about 2 years. I finally just gave up. Well, no, I finally was driving through the country once, and that motherfucker just ripped. Like I'm talking like when you're going in the country and you're going over like train tracks. I didn't know this because I grew up in the city. I didn't know that when you're going out into the country, those train tracks, they're unforgiving. It don't matter whether you're going 5 miles per hour or 25 miles an hour. Something's going to get tore up. And that's exactly what happened to me. My bumper dropped, and whatever was hooked right there, it grabbed that plastic piece and it ripped the bitch completely out from under my car. In a country town, And on top of that, where that train track was right in front of a construction team. So all of them watched me pull around the corner and rip out the little excess that was still attached, because that whole thing, I'm talking, ripped. I was like, bruh, right now is not the time to happen. But at the same time, when you're driving with that plastic piece dragging, shit's gonna happen. When you're driving with that fucking check engine light, shit's gonna happen. When you're driving with a tire light or gas lights, that shit's gonna happen. But don't be the dick to get in the car to tell me, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and slide you this tip because I saw that gas light come on. Like, bitch, mind your fucking business. You didn't have a car to begin with, so that's why you called me. But let me stop being like that. It's just like one of the things where I'm one of those kind of people where, like, I know when I'm fucking up, I know when I'm not doing something, but don't tell me that this is what's going on, because I know it. I'm telling myself this every day. Don't you think I thought about it every time when I got in this car and turned it on this morning? I saw this tire light and the check engine light simultaneously next to each other. I noticed that shit. But you know what? Thank you for telling me. That's not even the worst of it. On top of that, I have a toddler, right? And I think one thing that we learn as being parents is kids are just here to just fuck shit up, which is fine because I love her. But she's broken a couple things in my car, specifically the handle. I don't know what people call it. A lot of us regular people call it the oh shit bar. So apparently I've been driving crazy, but whatever. It's stood the test of time for about 3 years. Nobody yanked it. Nobody did nothing. And all of a sudden, here comes this little 2-year-old. She's like, oh, boom, rips it out of the ceiling. I'm like, bro, how many people have I had tugging on that thing? But maybe it was just on his last string, and she just gave it the last little bit of pressure, right? So, like I said, people love to tell you about how messed up your car is or what's wrong with your car. People love to point that out. And one time, a guy was actually in the car and he was like, oh, it's just this little screw. He's like, you just tighten it. It's not going to go all the way in, but it's good enough as long as you don't put pressure on it. So went the entire day. People were, grabbing on it. It was fine. Then what happens? Next morning, I put my 2-year-old in the car. Bow. Rips the shit out of the ceiling. So it's just one of the things when you start to really put this stuff together as to how it is of you visibly struggling with shit, especially as an Uber driver. Now, people are going to be as vulnerable as they can be with you. And in those moments as well, when other people are in the car, you are just as vulnerable, even if you don't say anything. But at the same time, I struggled with this when it came to me constantly talking about it. It made me look like, oh shit, yeah, I got this fucked up car right now, but don't say nothing. Don't say nothing though, right? So yeah, it's all about how you present yourself. Like I said, nothing is awkward unless you make it awkward. Just remember that. Nothing is awkward unless you make it awkward. So that's just one of the things, especially when it comes to you being able to utilize you having those type of conversations with people. And also that could fall into other stuff, because that's definitely helped me out. Just to, give a nice little callback to my last video. You like my voice? Well, last episode. What am I talking about? My last episode was called You Like My Voice. And me basically talking about utilizing my voice to, get things a certain way or to make people feel comfortable. I've also had that happen when it came to me making purchases. I'm just going to tell just this last little thing, and that's just going to be the last thing. It's just a little quick episode because it's a laundry list of stuff. But anyways, so one time, I think one thing that a lot of people fail to realize in like business or jobs is, your presentation of yourself, but also the scent that you have. Some people don't care. Some jobs don't like when you have certain scents because people have allergies and whatnot. But at the same time, it's very important for you to look presentable, smell presentable, and, act in a certain way of being presentable. So I went to the mall one time and I'm just walking by the little kiosk, and sometimes you try not to make eye contact with those kind of people because you know exactly what's going to happen. So I kept walking, but then I made the direct eye contact. She's like, "Oh, come here. Let me, let me see if I can show you some couple colognes or whatever." So I'm like, "Oh, I already made eye contact. I might as well go over there, right?" And I walk up to her, and she's telling me about all these things, and she lays out about like 5 or 6 colognes, and oh, here's this. You smell this. Oh, smell this. Smell this. Smell this. Right? And I don't know about the rest of y'all. I don't know about the rest of the Himothies that are tuned in right now, but if you're anything like me and somebody lays out a bunch of stuff with no price tags, the first thing that I'm thinking, I'm pointing to the thing that looks the most inexpensive out of this entire list, right? So that's exactly what I did. I said, boom, let me get that one. And it's actually a scent that I still use to this day. So she's like, all right, let me go run some numbers, comes back. And she was like, all right, so this normally at retail, it's looking at typically about like $120. But, with our discounts and stuff like that, I can let this go to you for today for $70. I was like, $70? I'm like, $70? I'm like, are you kidding me? For this little thing of cologne? She was like, yeah, it's normally like 120. I'm like, that's crazy. $70 for me to go, twice and go on about my day. And she died laughing. She's like, oh, you're funny. Okay, give me a second. And, came back and offered me the manager's discounts, my first time purchasing or whatever the case. So it's like those little things when you make things less awkward than they are. Because in my mind, I just wasn't trying to spend $70. I probably had about 50 on me. So I was trying not to be like, oh, I'm broke, bitch. But it's just like one of the things where if you don't make it awkward, things are not going to be awkward for you. So that's just wrapping up today's episode. I do thank everybody that has tuned in today and watched me just talk straight for 12 minutes because I probably sound like a cokehead right now. But in other words, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to today's episode. Today was episode 4. So like I said, I want to thank everybody who has been tuning in with me thus far. I appreciate all the support, all the streams, all the shares, the likes, the comments. So keep running it up for me. If you want to stay connected here with me, it's at ITYMD. If I'm spelling that right, I think you're my driver. At ITYMD.podcast. That is on Instagram, that's on YouTube, that's on Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts. So, like I said, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. Today was episode 4. Just a short, quick little one here for you. Just trying to keep up with the schedule that I've created here for myself. But I'm signing off here for today. So like I said, my name is Ricky Montoya, a.k.a. the Fooest of All Bears. And thank you so much for tuning in to I Think You're My Driver podcast. I'm out of here.
Speeding it goes and I'm all in my lane. No, I do not feel the same. Really, I'm out of my brain. Really, I'm out of my brain. Really, I'm out of my zone. No, it's a